The following critique is intended for a teenage or older audience and may contain heavy themes or be too articulate for kids younger than the age of 13. Also, the following critique is about a PG-13 film that may contain scenes and/or themes too intense for viewers under the age of 13. You know, there were a lot of 2000 superhero movie series that are still talked about to this day. Superhero movie series like the classic Spider-Mans, the X-Men movies, and even the Fantastic Four and the Daredevil solo movie, even though those two are kind of talked about for the wrong reasons. However, a superhero series I see that's constantly overlooked and never talked about is the Ghost Rider series. Even though Ghost Rider released in 2008, which was also the same year the MCU was started with the release of the first Iron Man, and the second installment, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, released in 2012, which was also the same year the Avengers released. Jesus Christ, these guys could catch a break, could they? They were still released during a time when superhero movies were growing in popularity. But how could they be forgotten? Were they so bad people didn't care for them, or are they underrated gems? But before I come to a conclusion, I think it's best to discuss the Ghost Rider character as a whole. Johnny Blaze made a deal with the devil, which unknowingly to him made him a Ghost Rider. A Ghost Rider is basically a bounty hunter for the devil who collects souls of those who have sinned. So at night, Johnny Blaze turns into said Ghost Rider, who has a black jacket, chains equipped with hellfire, and of course has the appearance of a flaming skeleton. Ghost Riders have an ability known as the Pendant Stare, where they can look into a person's soul and make them feel every bad thing they ever did to someone before they die. The only difference about this Ghost Rider is that he travels on a signature flaming motorcycle. Yeah, I don't need to read a comic on this guy. He's pretty freaking awesome already. The entire concept of a bounty hunter for the devil is too cool to be true. And to have him look like this is even cooler. However, despite his cool design and abilities, Ghost Rider just wasn't as popular as the likes of Spider-Man, Hulk, and Wolverine. However, Iron Man wasn't the only one getting the movie treatment, a faithful movie treatment, and Ghost Rider was next on the list. Now that I think about it, Ghost Rider was kind of the last cliche 2000 superhero movie of its time. What I mean by that is that every 2000 superhero movie was really identical. Show the hero before things go wrong. Show things, going wrong. Have either a montage or transformation scene of said superhero. Throw in a unnecessary love interest and a cartoonishly dumb villain. Have a few action scenes and random hit or miss comedic scenes as the plot progresses, and have a final battle between hero and villain. Most 2000 superhero movies were structured this way, and while the formula was fun, it did get stale after a while. However, thankfully, superhero movies started to deviate from that formula and start throwing in new ideas during the 2010s. Anyways, the reason I'm bringing this up is because Ghost Rider is 100% a 2000 superhero movie and deals with the same cliches. However, that kind of makes Ghost Rider a lot of fun, but more on that later. Let's begin the critique of the first Ghost Rider movie. Johnny Blaze and his father are both famous stunt performers. However, Johnny figures out that his father is suffering from cancer and will soon pass away. However, one night, a mysterious person approaches him and claims his father will be cured if he signs some sort of contract. Johnny does so, and it works. His father is cured. But then the devil causes his dad to die anyway, so nothing will hold Johnny back from being the perfect bounty hunter. Years later, Johnny morphs into the Ghost Rider. I mean Nicolas Cage. Come on, they're both equally as scary, and he tries to get his life together. Meanwhile, the devil's son, Blackheart, now has a completely original villain plan. He wants to take over the world. The devil forces John to turn to the Ghost Rider so he can find Blackheart and his cronies and banish them to hell along with any sinners who get in his way. While the core of the plot is the tired, reluctant hero must stop evildoer from taking over the world trope, there's actually a lot of things the plot does right. For example, the movie could have given Johnny's backstory in the first 5 minutes of the movie and have the rest be Ghost Rider being Ghost Rider. But instead, the movie properly sets up the narrative before we get any Ghost Rider action. In fact, we don't actually see Johnny as Ghost Rider until I think 46 minutes into the film. And while that may be a problem for some people, I personally like it. The movie takes its time to get you used to the characters and setup before crazy stuff starts happening. And once Johnny becomes Ghost Rider, the movie becomes an action-packed adventure. Overall, while cliched, the plot is still a lot of fun and knows what it's doing. However, the movie is still consumed in 2000s cheese. Everything from the comic relief best friend, forced love interest that's at least handled better than others, edgy villain who wants to take over the world, cheesy lines, and clueless police forces. However, this movie being a basic 2000 superhero movie makes this movie even more awesome. While the concept of Ghost Rider is amazing and has potential to be really dramatic, it's also a goofy enough to warrant a campy story, and this movie takes the latter and manages to be a lot of fun in the process. While some of the campiness does hurt the movie a little, it makes some aspects a little predictable, the movie is still a joy to sit through because of it. However, I feel it's appropriate to discuss the elephant in the room, the villain. This guy gives Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy a run for his money in the writiness department. Basically, Blackheart is a brat who's all like, I don't want to wait to take over the world. I'm more powerful than you, Dad, who is the Lord of Darkness. I'm going to kill your Ghost Rider and make everyone bow down to me. Aside from an earlier scene where he terrorizes a bar, he's never intimidating in this movie. Even though he's the devil's freaking son and can kill anyone by just touching them, I never felt threatened by him, nor his cronies. And it's kind of obvious his cronies just exist so Ghost Rider can have multiple demons to fight so there can be more action scenes. Overall, if your villain isn't compelling, intimidating, or fun, then you know you failed at making a proper antagonist. The only cool thing about him is the way he's defeated, which is pretty awesome in my eyes. Pun definitely intended for those of you who watched the movie. As for the pacing, I'm pretty sure I let it slip earlier, but the pacing is awesome. While there are a few slow scenes, overall, I wasn't necessarily bored throughout the movie. It does a great job at keeping you interested in the story. As for the effects, yeah, they're not too hot. They're not painfully bad, and I'm pretty sure they were okay for the time, but now they're starting to not hold up as well, especially the effects on Ghost Rider's face. Now it's time to discuss the action. While it's not jaw-dropping, the action is serviceable for the most part. This is a department I'll give the team some slack for. They're making a movie of easily the most powerful superhero of all time, so there's not a lot of suspense you can do with that. Overall, I think the action is alright. As for the performances, everyone does a decent job. Despite how much people like to make fun of Nicolas Cage for his crazy amount of freakouts, I still think he's a good actor in general, and he plays the part of Johnny Blaze pretty well. The side characters are also portrayed well. The only character that wasn't that believable is Blackheart, but I don't blame the actor. I'm not sure anyone could have played that character well, and he did a good job of what he was given. In conclusion, Ghost Rider knew what it wanted to be, and it succeeded. It's a fun, campy movie with plenty of 2000s superhero cheese sprinkled throughout a well-told narrative of decent performances, alright action, and iffy effects. I enjoyed Ghost Rider, and I personally consider it a 4 out of 5 movie. If someone gave this movie a 3 out of 5, I would agree with that as well, but if someone gives it lower, I can also see why too. It's definitely not for everyone, but I consider Ghost Rider at the end of the day a fun ride. When Ghost Rider released, it was met with mixed criticism, and while it was popular for its time, it eventually faded into obscurity. However, that didn't stop a follow-up movie from being worked on, and in 2012, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance released. I remember my dad wanted to go see it with me, but me turning it down because Flaming Skull Guy was scary. However, I eventually did end up watching it with my sisters, and we all loved it at the time. But then as I started to grow up, my passion for storytelling grew, which led to my passion for analyzing films and characters, and I looked back on this movie and was like, wow, that not too good. But where did Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance go wrong? And more importantly, where did it fail where its predecessor triumphed? Well, in order to see that, I will have to spoil the first movie, so if you want to check out the first Ghost Rider before continuing with this review, feel free to. Be sure to craft your own opinion on whether it's a good film or not. But for those of us who've seen the first Ghost Rider, or for those of us who simply don't care, let's take a look at Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. If you're unfamiliar with the ending of the first Ghost Rider, it was actually really good. Johnny was originally planning on running away from his father in pursuit of happiness with the girl he loves, then he was forced to leave her for her own protection. Then he spent his entire life in the entire movie rejecting the curse and wanting to get rid of it. After defeating Blackheart, the devil tells him that he can give up the curse and let someone else have it, and he can live happily ever after with his girlfriend. Then this happens.
No. I'm gonna own this curse. And I'm gonna use it against you. Whenever innocent blood is spilt, it'll be my father's blood. And you'll find me there. The spirit of vengeance. Fighting fire with fire. I will make you pay for this. You can't live in fear.
Johnny rejects the devil's offer because he decides that he's done running away. Instead, he's going to own the curse so no one else can have to endure the pain he has, and he's going to use it against the devil and use it as a weapon for justice. That is a really fitting ending, an ending that is instantly destroyed within the first 10 minutes of this movie. You see, it turns out Johnny couldn't control being the Ghost Rider, and now he's willing to get rid of it. Congratulations, you brought a character all the way back to square one. Yay! Heck, Bruce Banner in the MCU had the same arc Johnny did in the first Ghost Rider. Even though it happened off screen, it was still cool to see Bruce accepting his dark side and being able to control it. Seeing Johnny do the same thing would have been cool to see, but guess not. So Johnny's confronted by my favorite character in this movie, Morgan, who is a priest who loves wine and guns. Moreau, not Morgan. Jesus Christ, I'm thinking of The Walking Dead. And he tells Johnny that there's a lady and her son being chased by the devil's goons. The significance of this modern child is that the child is the son of the devil, and it's necessary for the devil's totally original plan. He wants to become powerful. Okay, so maybe compelling villains aren't each other's strong suit. Moreau tells Johnny that if he escorts them to a Christian stronghold, Johnny will be cured of his curse. So now Johnny and these characters are on the run to the stronghold while the devil and his goons chase after them. That sounds strangely awesome for a plot setup, but I've already explained how the second movie makes the first movie seem kind of pointless. Oh, you remember how the first plot was cliched but well executed? Well, ironically, Spirit of Vengeance is the exact opposite. It has a cool setup with a terrible execution. For those of you who've watched the movie, I dare you to say I'm wrong. Nearly every scene in this movie is either exposition dump, a Nicolas Cage freakout, or an action scene. You know what? Let's get the pacing out of the way. While the first movie flowed naturally, this movie is hell-bent on getting to the credits as quickly as possible. Boom! Here's exposition. Boom! Admittedly cool action scene. Boom! Exposition. Boom! Admittedly cool action scene. Boom! The only scene in the movie that slows down and focuses on the characters. Boom! More exposition. This movie is like this throughout the entire runtime and it gets annoying. It's not even like it's done in a cool way. Every scene in this movie that's not an action scene or a Nicolas Cage freakout moves so painfully slow. This movie is just sloppily structured. Oh, you know how the first Ghost Rider had weird bits of forced comedy? Well, Spirit of Vengeance is no exception. The type of comedy in this movie is really similar to the type of comedy featured in the MCU. I'm not saying this movie is copying the MCU, it just reminded me of the MCU. One or two jokes landed, but every other joke didn't really stick the landing. Really, the funniest parts of the movie are when the director allows Nicolas Cage to be Nicolas Cage for a minute.
Kerrigan must have told me about that thing that killed his men last night, huh? Yeah? That thing is inside of me. See, you're a bad man. And this thing, the Rider, he feeds on bad men and he's hungry. He's hungrier than he's been in years, and that's why I'm shaking. Because right now, the only thing standing between you and the Rider is me. And he's scraping at the door. Scraping at the door. All right, if you don't tell me what I want to know, I'm gonna let him out. And when he's done with you, there won't be anything left. Do you understand? Do you understand? Shake your head, yes or no. Good girl. Where's Kerrigan? What's the kid? The kid Kerrigan! You will tell me, why would he just think it so?
As for the most important part of any story, the characters. Yeah, they don't impress here. Johnny has a few good moments, but not a lot. In the first movie, while I didn't see Johnny, I at least saw Nicolas Cage playing Johnny. In this movie, I just see Nicolas Cage having fun with a digitized flaming skull in his face every now and then. Nada has the potential to be interesting, and she has a few good lines, but nothing interesting is ever done with her. Danny is literally the son of the devil, and yet he's not interesting either. We get teased with the possibility of seeing a tragic young character who's unfortunately the son of the most evil thing in existence, but he's just bland. I like Moreau because it's funny seeing a priest act the exact opposite of how a priest should act, but character-wise, it's lacking in that area too. Overall, the characters are all wasted and have the potential to be interesting and or fun. As for the villains, the devil acts like the devil, I guess. I mean, he's evil and calm, but that's really it. The devil in the first Ghost Rider movie wasn't interesting, but then again, he wasn't supposed to be because he wasn't necessarily an antagonist, at least not a main one. Kerrigan was a cool side antagonist, and seeing him go from a big shot mercenary to a superpowered servant of the devil was really cool, but character-wise, he's one-dimensional. That would be excused if literally anyone else was complex or interesting. The villains in this movie weren't one of the movie's strong suits. However, one strong suit of this movie is the effects. The effects in this movie actually look insanely good, especially the effects in Ghost Rider's face, which has received an amazing upgrade. I'm serious, the movie's effects look insanely good for 2012. Another good thing about this movie is the action. Yep, you just saw Ghost Rider turn a construction machine into a giant flaming chainsaw. That's one of the coolest things I've seen in any movie, and it's easily my favorite scene in the movie. The action scenes in this movie are insanely good. They're either grand scale, slow and suspenseful, well choreographed, or downright a cool spectacle. The effects and the action in this movie are the two things that this second installment 100% does better than its predecessor. As for the performances, they're about the same as the first movie's acting. Nothing Oscar-worthy, but it's all serviceable. In conclusion, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance is a major flop. I give it some credit. The effects are amazing, the action is great, and there are some neat ideas introduced. But the movie barely explores its ideas nor its characters. The movie is sloppily put together. The pacing is a nightmare, and overall, it's an unnecessary movie. Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance had potential, but I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 5. While it's hard to judge a duology made up of two completely different movies in terms of quality, I'll attempt to do so anyways. In hindsight, it makes sense why the Ghost Rider series is forgotten now. The first movie was another 2000 superhero movie, and the second was a masterful film. Not only that, but this series came out a few years too late, because by the time the first Ghost Rider came out, we were already getting superhero movies like The Dark Knight and Iron Man, and cheesy primitive superhero movies were kind of dying out. The second movie didn't stand much of a chance since it was not only a follow-up to a forgotten movie, but Ghost Rider still wasn't mainstream enough to guarantee a successful box office. While the first movie was a fun primitive superhero movie with 2000s cheese and cliches, the second was a massive movie that just wanted to exist instead of doing anything cool and interesting. Well, besides the giant flaming chainsaw, that kind of makes the whole movie worth it. Anyways, with one 4 out of 5 and one 2 out of 5 movie, that makes it easy to give the Ghost Rider duology a 3 out of 5 as a whole. With Spirit of Vengeance being both critically and financially a failure, and Nicolas Cage reluctant to return to the role despite him being a huge Ghost Rider fan with even a Ghost Rider tattoo, a third movie will most likely never happen. Regardless, I'm still glad the Ghost Rider series happened. I had fun watching the first movie, and the second gave younger me some good memories. If it weren't for these movies, I would most likely wouldn't even be a Ghost Rider fan, and I'm sure the same goes for others. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you haven't, please like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace, everyone.